talk about our next topic, and then and then I'll circle back to that because I had something to say about. I had something to say about that. All right, so our next topic, D. Blaze. Let's Trump. Trump is talking about some tax cuts. I
Yeah,
mean, not
it's
sorry, tax cuts. And what's your take on them? I know for our listeners, D. Blaze is studying uh, finance and accounting, so he's certainly our go-to guy for this sort of thing. So break it down for our listeners.
it's a proposed tax cut or budget cut, whatever you want to call it. But on the overview is basically the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. What's
Hmm.
happening with is it's gonna be you have to the tax ranges, the bracket you fall in, they all again smaller. So like
Right.
um it basically gonna affect well basically it's affect the single parents with more kids. So
Hmm.
usually in the tax when you file your tax and stuff, the more kids you have, the more you get back. But
Okay.
they cutting that down to like
What's that called? Um, the, there's a tax credit. Oh, geez. It's called. It has a fancy name.
what
For the. It's not earned income tax credit. It's I'll look it up. Keep talking. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to stop you from.
oh
I'm just
it's
trying to remember what it's called. It has a name for that one. Go
it
ahead.
probably
Sorry.
okay. Um well basically yeah, it affects the single parents with more kids. They won't get as much as they usually get or have been getting before the last tax change. Yeah, the income tax is gonna be less. Some people look forward to income taxes more than they do Christmas because that's when they have money to do for I guess their kids and their household or whatever. So that can
Hmm.
be they're gonna put a strain right there. Then when based on your taxes is how can you qualify for people with government assistance with WIC, Section
Right.
8. That is going to be harder for the people to qualify for that. So with all that going on, it can make the community more hostile, I guess, to live in because jobs are less. Is up is well, it's not enough good jobs, I guess, that can provide for a family, and
Hmm.
people on government assistance is not going to be able to qualify for all those programs with all the cuts. So I'm thinking that it's going to affect the black community more. It's a poor white community, but it's more black. It's going to affect the black community more than that. So
Hmm.
that's basically what the breakdown is. So
Well, and I'm not trying to dissuade you, especially if you want to say more. But one of the things as you were talking that always that that occurs to me is that there are more poor white folks in America. The only thing, but the thing is that we're black and we live in black communities and we pay attention to black communities. So therefore, we think it's going to be we're being impressed that it's going to be worse for us because that's what we see. So for us, our reality is actually going to be see what we see, and since we're not white, we don't know, how it's going to, how because to me, tax cuts and it's called the child tax credit. It's going to affect everybody who's poor, but we're going to feel it and see it more because it's in our community. So I think I agree with you in that sense that it really is going to affect us, but it's also aimed at, like you said, the rich are going to get richer and the poor are going to get poorer. If that
yeah,
makes any sense.
yeah, I agree with you. I'm along that line. From what I look at is like mostly like the black community or whatever. It's like probably two or three categories. Either you're in poverty, you're poor, or you're working class poor or whatever.
Right.
There's a few others, that have made it, quote unquote. But and then in the white community, you got all the way up from wealthy to rich to, you got more classes or whatever. So
Right.
that's why I think that is going to affect our
Oh
community.
yeah. Oh yeah. It's going to hurt because it is a child tax credit, and to and when they start cutting that back, you know, yeah, it's going to affect families. It's going to affect single parent families a great deal,
Yeah.
especially in our community. And like you said, and I'm agreeing with you in the sense of too about the jobs and how either they're not there. We had what was it, 40% unemployment?
Yeah.
Anybody see that statistic? 40%,
You said
and
40%
40.
nationwide.
40% for young black males is 40% unemployment.
Hmm.
40%,
Hmm.
and I think they consider young anyone under 21. 40%.
Hmm. I guess you know. So I
It's
don't.
proposed. It's not official, but
Hmm.
So I have a different perspective of things like that. Now, before I guess I talk crazy. My middle sister, she's a single parent as well. I have a niece. She has one child.
Hmm.
But I've always thought now people who have children, it's nothing against that having children.
Right.
My decision right now, I don't have any children. I don't think I'm going to have any children.
Hmm.
But this is more for the people who tend to have children to stay on that to get that government assistance or that check. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I always had mixed feelings about that because
Hmm.
I've known individuals and I know individuals that literally have kids or at the time before Clinton stopped. He when Clinton was his, he stopped that you couldn't get the money, actually the cash back from the government after 7 or 8 years or something like that of being on government
Right.
assistance. He
Right.
stopped that back in the day. But before that time, people would literally have kids just to get the check. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And I always had mixed feelings about that because me as a single person with no kids and a 33% tax, a third of my income is getting taken by the government. When tax season rolls around, I don't have any, children to actually write off or use for
Right.
the child tax cut. So I think it should be lowered.
Hmm.
I don't think there should be an incentive to have kids. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You should be able to write off some things. You should be able to write off, tuition. You should be able to write off school supplies and things like that. If you know what you're doing, you can write off those things when it comes to taxes. Because even having kids is technically like a business. You know what I'm saying? It's an investment. It
Right.
really is an investment. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
if you know what you're doing with your taxes and you do just a little research, a lot of the stuff that you have to buy for children, you can write those things off in your taxes.
Right.
But as of right now, I think it's after 3 kids, you pretty much don't get a credit. If you have more than 3 kids, when you go into the fourth kid, you don't get it. Or is it 2 kids? I don't know
I
if you
think it's
guys.
like in between the two and three. I think
Yeah, I
that's
think
a
it's 2 or 3. Yeah, it's one of the two, 2 or 3. After 2 or 3 kids, then after that, you really don't get a credit. Um, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it, man. I really do have mixed
Hmm.
feelings about it because I'm basically I'm basically penalized for not having kids. You know what I'm saying? Essentially,
Hmm.
uh, that's how I look at it. I'm basically penalized for not having kids because I don't get a tax break because I don't have kids. I don't get those write offs. So I don't know. I'm just it's to
Is a
me
thousand is $1,000 per child under the age of 17,
is it a
as
thousand or
long as you make
1,500?
a thousand,
Oh, okay,
as long as your income is less than 75,000. So you get $1,000 credit.
right.
So to uh, for per child. I don't see. I'm not finding out where it says you get a certain number.
Yeah,
What that number is.
It was
it's always been two or three. I think after the third one, you can't get $1,000. It's always been that because I always try to buy some kids every year. So so it's usually after the third one. It's either after the second one or after the third one. You don't get that $1,000 credit because I know individuals, who siblings, they have like 7, 8 kids. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And they always after that third one, they don't get a tax break, so they always offer a kid to someone. Just put it that way. So
I tell you, our people are wonderful. We find a way out of no
I
way.
mean, white people do. Trust me, white people do it a lot. I know a white individual who actually do it. They offer a kid, they sell a kid for doing tax season. You know what I'm saying? So
I give you. You can have my kid. Just break me off when you get your tax return.
right. Usually, break the person off a few $100. You know what I'm saying? Per kid. But I don't know. I've always been mixed about that. The tax credit for having kids. You know what I'm saying? I know kids is a big responsibility. But at the same time, I don't know. I always believe kids is somewhat of a choice. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, they are.
They're always.
And
You can,
yeah,
Oh my bad. I can understand that you shouldn't be, I guess, rewarded for having more kids because when I found out after I had my first one is that it costs money to take care of the kid if you want to see them grow. You know what I mean. If you want to, like you said, it's an investment. I mean, you want to make sure they're going to the best school that you want to make sure your child taken care of. So yeah, I understand where you come from with that.
yeah. And I too think that again we're talking about $1,000 at the moment. I don't know. Did he say how much the
It's gonna
proposed
be.
tax cut?
I think it's at 1,500 for all your deductions or whatever.
Oh, so he's just gonna lump them together and give you 1,500. So
Yeah, no matter if you got 1 or 5, it's gonna be 1,500 for
okay.
all the deduction.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how much you make or whatever, it's gonna be like the bottom is gonna clump together, the bottom half gonna clump together, the middle is gonna come together, and the top gonna stay. I guess kind of like how it is.
Okay. Yeah. Hmm. Okay. Well, I guess we'll have to see, see how that, plays out. 'Cause like you said, right, D-Blaze, right now they're proposals and proposed tax cuts. And, Trump always keeps some kind of controversy going. There's always something happening over there. So we'll have to watch this one buried underneath the fluff that they keep pushing out about wiretapping and so on and so forth. Buried under there, I'm sure there's the story of the proposed tax cuts and what that really means, as opposed to what mainstream media keeps pushing, as the latest, oh my goodness, look what Trump is doing. I mean, that's how I'm looking. They got all these, oh my goodness, look at what Trump is doing now stories. And the real news gets buried.
Yeah, I seen the page. It was like almost 2 pages of budget cuts and the programs he's trying to cut out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot. Excuse me, there's a lot of stuff going on that side.
Yeah. See, and that's the story worth digging into. I think, but that's just me. So, well, thanks, D-Blaze, for breaking that down for us, bringing it to our attention, and we'll just, like I said, we'll just have to see what happens.
Yeah.
And get ready to see how it affects everybody, or if it does at all.